It's time for the NFC East Mega Team. Who are the best players in the NFC East for 2023? 11 offense, 11 defense. Is it Dak or is it Hurts? Coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are breaking down our all-division teams here. For those of you who might be checking us out for the first time, we appreciate you. Make sure you become an everydayer. Subscribe up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. We've already finished the AFC side of things, so now we can start to see how these the divisions really stack up when we do the all-division teams. And there's a little projection here, Matt, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time to these all-division rosters we're putting together. One player per position. So we've got 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense, a little projection because this is for 2023. We did have one rookie that made the squad on the AFC side. So we'll see if any rookies get in there here on the NFC side of things with the NFC East. And Matt, it starts with quarterback. It starts with quarterback every time. These are the quarterbacks of the NFC East. We've got Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. Daniel Jones just got a nice little payday for the New York Giants. Looking like Sam Howell's going to be the starter. Maybe Jacoby Brissett for the Washington Commanders. And then Jalen Hurts coming off a breakout year for the Philadelphia Eagles. And clearly this is a two-quarterback race with Hurts and Prescott. Who is your choice for the quarterback of the all-NFC East squad?
Right before we get to that, though, I want to throw one thing out. Is doing this one was like, wow, this is loaded. I mean, position after position with star power. There's two positions on defense that are incredibly weak that we'll get to late in the pod. But I think this is possibly the best division. We'll see how it all shakes out. We haven't gone through the NFC yet. Quarterback, of course, two-horse race. Considering the season both Dak and Hurts had, I think it has to be Hurts. You know, he was not far off the MVP. Dak threw a lot of picks. But I think it's much, much closer than Eagles fans want to realize. And frankly, I'm not giving Hurts a hard time, and I have immense respect for what he's done and transformed his game. But he has a lot around him. And in terms of what on Dak's plate, Dak has a lot more on his plate.
The interceptions were tough for Dak last
year.
And clearly Jalen Hurts had a better year. He's a younger player. He's ascending. I think we know what Dak is, and I would expect a better Dak this year. And maybe teams have a better answer for what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing on offense. And Hurts does have a lot of help. But that being said, even though it is close, and I think Dak deserves a ton of consideration here, and I wouldn't even fight someone who said it has to be Dak, but I think Jalen Hurts gets the call.
Me too. I mean, he's coming off a tremendous season. He keeps getting better. He's hard to play against. His passing has really improved. So it's Hurts, yes.
You know, that running ability too, because look, the turnovers were big. Hurts had a better year. Hurts turned it over less, although, you know, some fumbles there, but, you know, as far as interceptions, a ton less than Dak Prescott. So that's where he wins this one for me.
Yep. And at some point during this downtime, mini camp's almost in the books. It's almost the true NFL offseason. I will do my quarterback list, and I bet Hurts comes in at 6, 7, and Dak comes in at 8, 9. Like, they're close.
Very close. Yeah. Very close. Running back, it's Saquon Barkley and everybody else, I think, in this division, even though there's some talent. And you do have Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys coming off an injury. You have DeAndre Swift now in Philadelphia, Kenneth Gainwell there. Rashad Penny was brought in. And then with Washington, it's Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, I mean, Tony Pollard would be a nice piece and
Yeah, that's what I was
probably
gonna say
should be
too.
considered when we're looking at, I think we got too many good wide receivers, but maybe he could sneak in as the 11th guy in our flex spot, but most likely probably 3 wide receivers, and Saquon Barkley is just too freaky, too good of a player. He's the running back for me pretty easily here.
Yeah, and I have a lot of respect for Pollard. I agree with everything you said. Pollard's going to be a high fantasy pick. You know, let's see how he handles the volume. Super efficient, explosive, great receiver. Maybe in some divisions he'd be our 11th guy, but when we get the receivers, you'll quickly find out that he can't beat those guys out, in my opinion. So yes, it's Saquon.
Some contract disputes may be happening with Saquon as well. So we'll see what happens there, and more on that later in the week and into coming weeks as we get toward training camp with what's going on with Saquon Barkley and all these running backs around the league. We're starting to hear about it, and they're not happy with the money that's coming their way and the way things are going with with just the economics of the NFL and the running back position.
Absolutely, and it's something they need to deal with.
Tight ends are up next here in the NFC East. Well, go ahead.
I think this is a 2-horse race too. I mean, sorry to me to jump in front of you to lay it out. I don't think Dallas or Washington is even close. I trust Goddard, who I think is ascending more than I trust Waller. Plus, he offers more as a blocker. He's younger. I think he's the superior player. And if we're building a super team, which we are for this upcoming season, I would rather line up with Goddard than Waller.
I think it's a floor and a ceiling debate maybe between Dallas Goedert and Darren Waller. No disrespect to, rookie second rounder Luke Schoonmaker out of Michigan for the Dallas Cowboys. Jake Ferguson is there. They lost Dalton Schultz in free agency. You got Logan Thomas in Washington. It's definitely between Goddard and Waller. And I could see the argument for Waller, going back to what he was like at his prime, he was a better player than Dallas Goedert. We just haven't seen that in a while, but I think it's a safer play to go with Dallas Goedert because you know what you will be getting there this season, most likely as a receiver and a pass blocker.
Me too. I think Goddard's a great player in the making that gets a little overshadowed by his 2 stud receivers. If he was I don't want to say like the Chiefs situation, but there's a lot of situations where he'd be the number 2 option in his offense, and he won't be in Philadelphia.
There's going to be a lot of Philadelphia Eagles on this roster.
yeah, there are.
I kind of want to go Waller, but, I think it's kind of a tie for me, and you like Goddard, so I think Dallas Goedert is
okay. That's fine by me.
Offensive line.
By the way, both these lines are ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's like too many good players to get on here, and the Eagles have a lot to do with that too.
We'll get some Washington Commanders on this team.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So let's
going to be really well represented today, but we'll get a couple of them.
Let's start with offensive tackle here in the NFC East. We've got Tyron Smith, who's been around since 2011, Matt. Terrence Steele there in Dallas. There is Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal are the highly drafted offensive tackles for the New York Giants. Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson in Philly on the left and right side. Then you have Charles Leno and Andrew Wiley, who are the offensive tackles projected starters there for Washington Commanders in 2023. I think Lane Johnson has to be the right tackle.
Yes, 100%. And
who's the left tackle is the question then.
I don't think this is a question either, but that sounds so disrespectful to Jordan Mailata, who's a freak of nature, and Tyron Smith, who's had a tremendous Hall of Fame career. But I think Andrew Thomas might be the best left tackle in the league that's not Trent Williams. I mean, he's that good, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves quite yet nationally. So we're going to leave some really good linemen off this list, and I think Thomas and Lane Johnson's about as good as you could ask for as a tackle pair.
Really good pair, and offensive line especially. There's a year or 2 delay for what you do on the field for the recognition that you get, especially like Andrew Thomas. Even though he's a highly drafted guy and everyone knows who he is, he started his career off a little slow, but he came on like gangbusters last year, and so that is I think a perfect bookend for us here with left tackle Andrew Thomas from the New York Giants, Lane Johnson from the Philadelphia Eagles at right tackle. Next, Matt, we'll finish up the offensive line. We've got to do wide receivers, decide who our 11th man is. Going to be a running back, it's going to be another tight end, or will we go 3 wide with our offensive 11 for the NFC East? And, of course, the defensive side of the ball as well next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson right here on the Locked On Podcast Network is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make your way to FanDuel because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500 back. That's $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. Just go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn, and you will love the safe and secure app, how easy it is to navigate the website at FanDuel and find all the bets you need. We've got the NHL and NBA finals now all finished. Congratulations to the champions there, but there are already NHL and NBA futures for next season. There's a ton of NFL bets. We've got weekly lines already to bet on, over under win totals, future award winners in the 2023 season for the NFL. Great promotions every day at FanDuel. And of course, when you win, get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on all of the sports action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500 back. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NFL. So the interior of the offensive line, I am looking at, I've got a lot of record keeping here because I got to write all the players in and then pulling up my sheet. So, clearly Zach Martin's been playing at a high level for, a decade now. This is year 10 for him, right? Yeah. 2014.
Yeah.
First round. You got Tyler Smith in Dallas. You've got Mark Lewinsky. You've got Landon Dickerson. You've got Tyler Steele in Philadelphia. You've got Chris Paul, NFL version. You've got Sam Cosmi. To me, is it just, it's Landon Dickerson and Zach Martin? Is that the pairing?
I think Zach Martin is an all-time great guard. I threw out Hall of Fame with Tyron Smith. Lane Johnson, I think, is going to the Hall of Fame. Our center is going to be a Hall of Famer. I think Zach Martin's a Hall of Famer, and they're all still playing really well. So he's in for me. I'm torn. If you feel strongly about Dickerson, cool. To me, this is a dead even tie between Dickerson and Tyler Smith, who eventually will be Tyron Smith's replacement at left tackle. But in the meantime, he is a killer guard. He is a huge human being. Dickerson is as well. Similar play styles in terms of just mauling bears, run behind these dudes. I'm cool with either, and I think both their best days are ahead of them.
I'll tell you what, I'll choose the center, and I'll let you choose who the left guard is going to be.
It's all yours.
Okay. I'm going to go with, I'm going to bypass the rookie John Michael Schmitz of the New York Giants, Tyler Biotish, and Nick Gates here, and go with Jason Kelsey, who's a long-time player. 6th rounder in 2011, same year as Tyron Smith was a first-round pick. Jason Kelsey is our starting center here. Cam Jurgens, by the way, I'm interested to see how he fits in for that Philadelphia Eagles offensive lines. I think they might have expected that he was going to be the starting center this year, but Jason Kelsey decided to come back for one more, and he's going to be our All-NFC East center. Okay.
Easily, obviously. A couple of these are slam dunks. Kelsey's as easy as it gets. The rest of the centers in that division aren't great. Tyler Smith, I'm going to be the extra guard then. Smith barely over Dickerson, but that's one I could really waffle on.
All right.
That's a really good O-line. Really good O-line.
So far it's our best offense, but we're not on wide receivers yet.
But they're not too shabby either. Right.
It's a pretty good group. It's a great group, in fact, of wide receivers here in the NFC East. CeeDee Lamb has to be in consideration here, and it's actually a pretty easy group to start to look and see, okay, one guy plays outside, this guy plays on the interior. And, when you look at the list of wide receivers in this division, there's no way we're going to go with a second tight end or a second running back either. It's going to be wide receivers. So in Dallas, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got Brandon Cooks, you got Michael Gallup. In New York, Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodges, Jalen Hyatt's a 3rd-round pick, Sterling Shepard continually injured for that group, Wan'Dale Robinson, the 2nd-rounder last year. It's going to be a training camp battle. None of them are going to make our squad.
Sorry, Giants, but no.
A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in Philadelphia, and then you got Terry McLaurin, 1st-rounder from last year, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel as well as a slot guy for the Washington Commanders. This is tough. I think number one, A.J. Brown is in, and I like CeeDee Lamb in the slot, which means there's going to be a bloodbath of a battle for that other outside wide receiver spot.
Yeah, Dotson Dotson has no chance, but I just want to throw him out there. I am a big fan of his game, and I am a big Dotson believer. So Brown and Lamb are in. I really have a hard time going between Devonta Smith and McLaurin. I mean, McLaurin to me is one of the most underrated receivers in the league. There's a couple guys like him, DJ Moore, that have just never had great quarterback play, but you break down their tape, it's really, really strong. I mean, their tape is better than their numbers. But Devonta Smith, man, was I wrong about him. I mean, I thought too skinny. He's going to get pushed around. He plays big. He is nasty. He'd be a 1 on most teams. So I picked the guard. You can go between McLaurin and Smith, and either will make me happy.
I don't want to do it just to throw a bone to the Washington Commanders listeners in our audience, but
they need a little representation at some point.
And I almost kind of want to go A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Devonta Smith, and maybe not even C.D. Lamb. I mean, it's that tight with those guys. It has to be A.J. Brown.
It is tight, yeah.
I guess I'm going to go Terry McLaurin here.
Okay. I do think Lamb is too, but not distinctly.
I like Devonta Smith a lot. And I was a huge believer. I didn't care about the weight. He was so smooth in college. He was my guy in that draft. I liked him even more than Jamar Chase coming into the league.
Wow.
Because Chase was a little bit more one-dimensional. I just liked the way that Devonta Smith could uncover, and he plays so much bigger than his size. He's so smooth, and he's been that same guy in the NFL. And maybe having A.J. Brown there has taken away some of the targets from him being a true number 1 for the Eagles, which is why, not his fault. I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin, who is the number 1 for the Washington Commanders and hasn't had the quarterback play to help him out as much.
No, not at all. I leaned a little towards McLaurin as well, but that foursome is really good.
Feels good to be able to get one of those Washington Commanders here on our squad.
Defense might be a little kinder to the Commanders than offense.
I think it will be. I mean, they spent 9 straight first rounders on defensive linemen. I think one of them is going to make it on this roster. Let's start there. Let's start with the edge guys here, defensive ends, before we move on to the rest of the defense for the NFC East. And we've got Chase Young, who, I mean, was supposed to be on this squad and is not going to make it. Got Montez Sweat, the first rounder in 2019. Josh Sweat in Philadelphia. Brandon Graham still going for those Philadelphia Eagles. And then looking at the sort of outside linebacker variety of edge guys there for the NFC East, with players like Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau in New York. And then you've got Hassan Reddick coming off the edge for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a really good group, and it's really hard to, I think, pick which two and sort of envision how they're going to play in our fictitious defense here, Matt.
So you didn't even mention the Dallas guys. I mean, Lawrence is a stud as well, and Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in the division.
I didn't even he was so ingrained that I skipped right over Micah Parsons. How dare I do that? So
to pull back the curtain, off the ball linebacker kind of stinks in this division. But I'm putting my foot down. I'm not going to let us cheat.
I thought you were going to fight for it. Okay.
Nope. I'm not going to let us cheat. I mean, he's flat out said, I'm putting on weight. I'm a full-time edge. That's what he does best. That's what he might do better than anybody. So Micah Parsons has to be one of our edges and not off the ball linebackers. I'm sorry. Usually I'm flexible on such things, but I'm putting my foot down, and we're going to have bad linebackers, unfortunately. But Parsons has to be one of the edges.
Looking at my list, Micah Parsons is in there, and that is obviously one of the choices at defensive end. Is it?
I think I go with Reddick. I mean, he had so many sacks last year. I mean, it would be really light on the edges, but so be it, I think Lawrence is a tough call. You want it to be Young, but as you mentioned, I don't think Chase Young can be there after this past season or two. I think Thibodeau is going to be a star.
Not there yet.
Reddick
and Parsons over Thibodeau.
Yeah. And
this could be his breakout, but there is some projection here. But I mean, just the level that Reddick is playing, flying off the edge, and he was second in the league in sacks last year, wasn't he?
Right, and he's doesn't play every snap either. I mean, he's there in high leverage situations, but he makes his pass rush snaps count. So I'm going Parsons, Reddick, but Lawrence is a good player too. We don't even have him out there.
We could put either Reddick or Parsons too at a sort of a hybrid outside linebacker, extra rusher if we wanted to. Maybe we can revisit the edge guys.
Okay,
it's
a good group. We're leaving some quality on the D tackle strong too.
All right, Parsons and Reddick then are our edge players here, and let's next go to the interior of our defensive line, off-ball backers, and our secondary, and find out what our nickel look is going to be here for our 11-man defense of the NFC East. Next. Thanks, everybody, once again for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Shout out to all the everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, make sure you are subscribed up on the new Peacock and Williamson YouTube channel, and you can find us everywhere you get your podcasts. And by the way, for those of you on YouTube, you can see down in the little corner, it says Watch Next. We've got Dynasty Football, Locked On Dynasty Football, which my guy Matt Williamson is one of the co-hosts of. So make sure you're checking that out here on the network. Cool. Okay. Interior defensive line, defensive tackles here. You've got a couple more first rounders on that Washington defensive line, Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. You got Jalen Carter, the new first rounder. You got Jordan Davis, last year's first rounder for the Philadelphia Eagles, with former first rounder in 2012, Fletcher Cox. We're going to find a guy who's not a first rounder, but there's a lot of first rounders here on this group of defensive linemen. We have Osa Digizua. We've got Mozzie Smith, a first rounder for the Dallas Cowboys, Ashawn Robinson, Dexter Lawrence for the New York Giants. It's a really good group.
Really good group.
Are you going to be ageist and not include some of the old guys? You're going to throw Jalen Carter in there? I know how much you loved him. You thought he was the best player in this draft class. Yep. Or do we just keep the tandem in Washington together and put them in our interior?
See, I think Dexter Lawrence is the easiest one in here. And he's quickly becoming one of my favorite players. Is much more than just a run-stuffing nose, plays a ton of snaps, really pushes the pocket, is about to make a fortune. So in a great D-tackle group here, I think he's number one. Not heads and shoulders above, but he's number one. Now, Jordan Davis can't be in the mix. Just haven't seen enough. I think Fletcher Cox isn't in the mix, the little past his prime. So I think it comes down to the two Washington dudes or Jalen Carter. And I'm going to be a little prejudiced against Jalen Carter because his competition's so strong. Not seeing him in the NFL probably makes him a backseat to the two Washington dudes. And I think I prefer Allen slightly over Payne. But any of those three I could be convinced of. Allen, Payne, Carter.
I have Jonathan Allen here.
I was my guy, yeah.
Next to Dexter Lawrence. And I think that's a solid pairing, too, with those two and their style of play. Now, you could go a little heavier since we're light on the edges. We could do that as well. You could even go double nose tackle there, on this defensive front. But Micah Parsons, Dexter Lawrence, Jonathan Allen, and Hassan Reddick, I think, is the way to go.
That two I had down originally, too. But if you felt strongly another way, I would be all ears because it's a really good group, unlike this next two that we're going to talk about here.
I like it. And so right now it's a very strong group when we're comparing this to other all division teams that we've done. And we've only done the AFC side of things so far, but this is a very strong group. But and look, this has been the weakest position in the entire league, Matt, is the inside backers, the off-ball linebacker.
Yeah.
And we
really eye-opening. Yeah.
We only have to come up with two for every division. And there's not that many slam dunk candidates, which is really surprising because you've got guys like, first round picks, Jared Davis. Like he hasn't lived up to that first round billing. Nakobe Dean, I don't know what to expect really from him in year two as a third rounder last year. You got Leighton Vander Esch, who was a first rounder in 2018. He's been around a long time, but he's not a slam dunk player for our group here. Cody Barton. What do you think? What are your nominations here for our off-ball linebackers for the NFC East?
Yeah, this is the weakest group I think we've done, period. I mean, if we would have hit stop on the podcast 30 seconds ago, I think it's the best team of any division. Defensive front and offense is awesome. So a name you didn't mention, but not that I feel strong about him either, is newly signed Bobby Okereke. I mean, I think he's at least a solid starting linebacker. The other two names or other three names were Vander Esch, who had a better season than he has in recent years, and then Davis and Dean in Washington and Philly, which are still huge projections, but there's ability there. So I probably would go Okereke just because I know what he is. But man, none of these are great.
Jamie Davis, Nicholas Morrow, Bobby Okereke are the names that I did not mention that are yeah.
Davis came on a little bit last year, though. He's getting better.
And some projection for him to continue to get better. Is he our second linebacker then?
I think so. I mean, he has a lot of traits, and as the season went on, it looks like linebackers take a long time to get their feet under them, and I think he's starting to. So we're doing this for next year, and I think that he's at least trending the right direction, and just shows how weak this position is right now.
No doubt. Okay, we're going Bobby Okereke and Davis from the Washington Commanders as our off-ball linebackers for the NFC East.
The safeties almost stink as bad as the linebackers.
Let's get the stink out of the way then, and go to the safeties here in the East. We got Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Jaron Kearse in Dallas. There is Jason Pinnock, Xavier McKinney, Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown, the rookie third rounder, Kayvon Wallace. For the Philadelphia Eagles, Terrell Edmonds, who you know a lot about from his days with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a free agent signing by the Philadelphia Eagles, who lost some depth in their secondary. You've got Derek Forrest, Cam Curl in Washington. If I was to nominate two safeties, I think I would go with Edmonds and Curl, Matt.
I'm glad you mentioned Curl.
They're both kind of boxy safeties, though. We really have a good, deep middle safety here.
Edmonds is solid. He plays a ton of snaps. He's asked to do a lot, but he doesn't shine anywhere. I think Curl is number one, and rarely is he brought up that way. So let's put him in for sure. I know the Eagles are really excited about Blankenship, but I don't think I can go there. I kind of like McKinney. I think McKinney's a good football player. Kearse has some unique traits. I mean, he's 6'4" or whatever, and he has some range and length. Part of me wants to put Jartavius Martin in. I guess because I loved him coming out of school. He can play the slot. But, boy, that's a leap of faith.
I loved his tape. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was a fantastic rookie, but that would be wild to throw a second-round rookie in here over all these veterans. But, again, like you said, it's not a great group.
I think that's my vote. I mean, that could really bite us in the butt. He might be terrible. Who knows? But these guys that we're leaving on the bench aren't great.
He could play a little nickel corner as well,
exactly.
Too. So
that's
at least some versatility and some range, since we were talking about kind of having more box safety types. So you would go with the rookie in Jartavius Quan Martin over
McKinney or Kearse.
Over McKinney over your guy from
Edmonds. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think so.
All right, we're going Martin. There we go. Our second rookie to make the all-division team so far.
Yeah.
Not even a first-round pick. Okay, very interesting here. Let's move along to the cornerbacks here.
We might get some heat for that one.
That's okay. I like a little bit of heat. You know what I want to hear from, by the way, for the listeners out there? I don't want to hear like a homerific, the only thing you didn't like is that we didn't choose enough of your team's guys.
Right.
I want to hear someone who's a fan of the Eagles and be like, oh man, you guys are not giving enough credit to this guy that I see play against us twice a year in Washington. Those are the kind of critiques I want to hear, because it means more when you're really critiquing something that you've seen, someone you don't want to play against, more so than it's like, okay, of course you want all your guys to make it from your team on our all division teams. And it just doesn't weigh as heavily.
I want a knowledgeable listener to be like, man, you just brushed over Montez Sweat like he's nothing. That guy's a stud. And he is.
Exactly.
But, you know what I mean? Right.
Trevon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore in Dallas. It's a pretty good start here. One younger who's still ascending cornerback in Diggs, and a guy who's still playing at a high level in Gilmore. You've got Adoree Jackson and Deontay Banks, the rookie first rounder with the New York Giants. You have Darius Slay and James Bradbury have been doing it for a long time in Philadelphia. Then Kendall Fuller and another first round corner in Emmanuel Forbes in Washington. And I think we got to pick three of these guys, man.
Yeah, and I think there's four that are the best, but none of them are a slot, but they might just have to learn. And hey, Jartavius Martin could play some slot. The two Eagles and the two Cowboys to me are the best. They're the best four.
The two Eagles and the two Cowboys. So Slay, Diggs,
Bradbury,
Gilmore. I think I would have Bradbury fourth of that group.
Me too. We can definitely agree on that. So we only need three. So that one was kind of made easy for us.
Who's going to play the slot? The
I
vet in
don't
Gilmore?
know. They're all good enough to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I don't mind projecting that to some degree. And again, Martin could do it for us at safety as well. But they all are our outside guys. So that's not ideal, but back seven's a little soft, and corner's clearly the best part of it. But the middle of the field is bad. Slots and linebackers and safeties, really rough.
Interesting team here we put together.
Really is, yeah.
So on the offensive side of the ball, we've got Hurts and Barkley. Behind an offensive line left to right, that is Andrew Thomas, Tyler Smith, Jason Kelsey, Zach Martin, Lane Johnson. We've got 3 wide in A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, and C.D. Lamb with tight end Dallas Goedert. And then on defense, pass rushers, Micah Parsons and Hassan Reddick with Jonathan Allen and Dexter Lawrence inside, Bobby Owereke and Jamin Davis. At linebacker, Trevon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore, Jartavius Martin, the rookie, Cam Curl at strong safety, and Darius Slay at cornerback. That is our all-NFC East defense. Do you think this stacks up with the rest of the NFL, Matt? Do you think that this one might be 1 or 2 when it's all said and done?
I do, because I don't hate being weak at safety and slot corner and linebacker, but that's a large area of the field where we're weak. But the rest of the team is really good. I mean, that offense is loaded. The D-line is loaded, so I like our chances to compete with this team.
I like the AFC West over the NFC East for sure so far.
Yeah, Mahomes carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, he does. There's a lot of star power there.
Yeah.
So really good division. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be fun to rank these up when we're all done as well.
I like it. Very cool.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen. Back tomorrow. Get those mailbag questions in at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. We might have a little scheduling conflicts here with some travels both ways for both Matt and I. We got a vacation thrown in there as well. So not exactly sure which day we're going to do the mailbag, but we'll continue with the mailbag this week. We'll have another one next week. So get those questions in. And we've also got the rest of the NFC with our all division teams coming up on Peacock and Williamson.